Welcome to the best build of the season. And yeah, that's big B is in billion. And the thing is, it can still be so much stronger. Hello, my fellow sorcerers. Welcome today then as I present to you our build of the season. I adore this. Ball lightning back with a vengeance. And honestly, better than it even ever was in its legendary heyday way back. This is so much fun. But beyond that, the damage it pumps out is ludicrous. The speed at which it farms, because you only move via teleporting, is ludicrouser. And the fact that you literally can't die thanks to mana shield is ludicrousist. This thing is an absolute gem, and once you get it online, and it's actually fairly easy to get it online, you will feel like an absolute god. And then the ceiling for this is outrageous. If you really want to dedicate yourself to getting absolutely perfect gear, you are going to start seeing some hilarious results. You don't really need to do that if you felt the need to start really pushing pits and head towards that 125, 130 mark, but for everything else, even the half-online version of this build will utterly annihilate everything in Torment 4. Farming your lair bosses in seconds, absolutely no problem. Speed clearing pits for power glyph leveling in just a couple minutes, absolutely no problem. Making Infernal Hordes your personal playground with enough aether to always get our new Chaos Unique boss and the big chest afterwards, again, absolutely no problem. There really isn't any weakness. It even looks amazing because of the huge ring of glowy ball lightning. And better than everything, there's a couple of versions that you can tweak this into depending on the activity that you're doing. So all in all, this is glorious, and it really is down to mana shield combining with power siphon and advanced techniques that just let this season be the season for Sorcerer. It's just ridiculous. And this is the perfect build to transition to from Crackling Energy that I showed you last time. That's the build that you farm this build in. So, without further ado then, let's get into this. And I should say, if you do want absolute min-max peak Crackling Energy, because you want to stay in Crackling Energy, I can of course bring you that too, but for now, it's time for our peak. Skill tree, as always then, is up first. We want to get 1 point into Spark, then Enhanced Spark, and finally Glinting Spark. We're going to be casting it anyway every 5 seconds or so, so we might as well get some crit chance. There's not really anywhere better for the point to be. This takes us then to your cause, where we just want to put a single point into Charged Bolt, so we can then get Enhanced and finally Destructive. Unstable Currents has 100% uptime, which means we're constantly pumping out Charged Bolts, which means this just acts as a nice 25% damage reduction, which is only a good thing. It also moves us on to defensives. We just want to simply have Flame Shield, so put 1 point in it there. You can get away without this depending on your gear, and we'll talk about that later. Then you want to grab Teleport over to Enhanced and then Shimmering for the constant 30% damage reduction, and Teleport is our first and by far and away most important enchantment, as it's essentially how we'll be moving exclusively with this build, at least once your gear gets good enough. Then we get the free damage of Glass Cannon. There's no reason not to. I really cannot stress how hard you are to kill with Mana Shield and everything set up properly. Then we grab ourselves Familiar into Enhanced and finally Invoked. Unstable Currents will be summoning the Familiar, so we just enjoy the free 10% multiplicative more damage increase. It won't actually be on our bars. Then you want to grab Lightning Spear down to Enhanced and then Invoked. Now, Lightning Spear here is by far the most sort of optional thing. You don't have to take it. We'll be pumping out Lightning Spears from Unstable Currents, and just casting an extra one every now and then isn't like the craziest thing in the world. There is a version of this build that we'll talk about where you do want to have it, but basically, if you prefer, you can go with Ice Blades to speed things up, and if you have lesser gear, then this is the way that I would recommend, but for now, I will leave it with how I had it. Then we want 3/3 and Primordial Binding, just to amp our mana regen. Obviously, we've got like a 10k mana pool, but increasing our mana regen lets us play very nicely with Wizard's Blizzard to essentially make us immortal. We also then grab the free 30% damage reduction from Mana Shield. Over to our masteries, we get the free damage of Inner Flames, because we'll always be healthy, because our health isn't ever taking any damage, and then we want ourselves 1 rank in Blizzard to enhance to then get Wizard's Blizzard. So this, of course, is 1 mana regen for every 20 mana. So if we've got 10,000 mana, yeah, that's a lot of mana regen. And given that mana regen is our health, essentially, with Mana Shield, this is also health regen. So as you can imagine, amped up by all of our regen increases, this becomes a ridiculously potent button, and you essentially just permanently have at least 1 Blizzard going while playing this build. After that, we get the star of the show. We want to put 5 points into it. We will end up with even more ranks than this, but I have some gear off for the skill tree to make it a little bit simpler to follow. In any case, pump up that ball lightning, grab enhanced, and then finally mages for the damage increase. We don't need crackling energy generation. Then we grab 3 out of 3 into invigorating conduit, chiefly because while we're not generating it with here, we will be generating it a lot with static discharge, so this gives us nice pockets of mana. And again, in the grand scheme of our total mana pool, it's not huge, but there's nowhere else better to put the points, and it just lets us spam cast, and also lets you play this build earlier if, again, you don't have as good gear yet. It's just a nice little comfort thing. Then we move over to our ultimates, where we get the triple frosty threat of Permafrost, because obviously we've got Blizzard on our bar, we want Icy Touch for more vulnerable damage, and then Hoarfrost. The Blizzard itself provides the chill and the freeze, so this is really wonderful. Then we get 3 out of 3 in elemental synergies. It's free damage, we might as well, nowhere else better for the points. The extra cooldown reduction is very important. It's always incredible, but extra so here because we need as much cooldown reduction as we can get for reasons I'll go over. Then we want a point in coursing currents, 3 out of 3 electrocution for the survivability, and then convulsions for that extra damage while we have crackling energy, which we always will have. We then have full unstable currents, 5 out of 5, so it has as low a cooldown as possible, and then prime unstable currents alongside supreme to get that constant pulsing and that lovely attack speed. The second enchantment slot is going to be your ball lightning. Honestly, this one's not as important, but you know, we gotta put something in here, so this at least adds damage. Then finally, for our key passive, we want overflowing energy for that 85% increased lightning damage, which is just huge, but also as we will always be pulsing crackling energy, the cooldown reduction application just speeds up the build massively, which is always good to have, and this is where we end up. Let's get into the gear then, because it's a little bit more complex than normal due to Chaos Uniques and how that can influence everything. I will start by doing the ideal peak perfect setup, and then we will downgrade from there depending on what you actually have. So ideally then, this is what we're looking at. You want either a sword or a mace, and you want to have Inner Calm on it. The reason for that is it's a huge damage increase that we will permanently keep up. Because this build exclusively moves via teleporting like so, well, this doesn't count as moving, so it doesn't break the Inner Calm triple boost, making it a really effective aspect, especially as we can't use our normal damage increasing aspects like Conceited because we don't have any barrier synergy. You want to have then Okuns Catalyst, of course. This is your best all-round ball lightning option for everything that isn't pit pushing. If you want to pit push, then Strike of Stormhorn is going to do better for you, but obviously it's very niche. There is nothing wrong with just Okuns. It feels better to play, it's faster, it's more fun, but hey, make your choice. Then you need a pair of legendary boots, and they need to have attacks reduce evade cooldown on, so you can do the aforementioned just moving with teleport. And then you want to have gravitational on for the obvious ball lightning synergy. Then you need to get a Banished Lord's Talisman as a Chaos Unique. This is the only required Chaos Unique to have the minimum amount of power that Ball Lightning is worth swapping to over Crackling Energy. We need a Banished Lords as either your legs, your gloves, or your chest, and ideally get that core skills G8. Core skills ranks are everything to this, but yes, a Banished Lords as one of your armor pieces. Then in the remaining 2 slots, you want a Crown of Lucian Chaos Unique, like so, to amp our damage even more at the cost of more resource, is per cast, which is actually a good thing in this setup, and we'll get to that too. And then lastly, your 3rd piece of Chaos Unique armor, after Banished Lords and Lucian, should be a Locran's Talisman. This gives us a load of critical strike chance and another boatload of damage, as we'll be way above the 500 resource cap, and the all stats is great too. In any case, yes, a Chaos Unique version of this as your chest. I don't have one yet, so everything you've seen of how powerful this build is again without its peak form. So your 3 Chaos Uniques, Banished Lords, Crown of Lucian, and then Locrans, ideally. After that, for your necklace then, you want something like this. Either Shredding Blades, or indeed you can put the Inner Calm on there, which is likely going to be more effective, as that getting that increase is really nice. It takes it to near 60% multiplicative, which is going to do more for you than Shredding Blades, so I would give that a little bit of a swap round. But in any case, you want Shredding Blades and Inner Calm as your 2 offensive aspects, and a normal amulet is better because you can eventually get one like this that has ranks of Permafrost and Inner Flames. I am really happy this dropped, which is a huge damage increase compared to just having Locrans on normally with just a regular chest piece. In any case, you then, ideally in the perfect gear world, would have yourself a Ring of Starless Skies, the ranks to core skills, again, so important, huge damage increase, the attack speed, crit strike. I don't need to sell you on, Starless Skies here. And then lastly, a Harlequin Crest is the pièce de résistance, more skill ranks, some nice damage reduction, cooldown reduction, which is very, very important, and that armor really helping you to actually make cap, despite us being very limited on potential armor rolls, as all of our armor is Chaos Uniques. So that's going to be your perfect setup. Now, let me swap to the minimum setup in order to play it and have a better result than Crackling Energy. Then we'll look something like this. You have Locran's Talisman as your actual amulet, as if you have to choose between this and a regular amulet and you don't have any Chaos Unique versions, this is still going to do more for you, so you use this as your actual amulet, you still have that required Banished Lord's Chaos Unique, and then you use Crown of Lucian as your actual helmet, and then you have normal chest and gloves. On your chest, you want to have Wild Bolt, just to get more people zumped in to your Ball Lightning, and this can help you with that armor requirement, because you can get your percent armor temper, and you can get raw armor as an affix, etc. And then you just have a normal pair of gloves, and on that you want to put Splintering Energy to power up your lightning spears as a little extra, and make sure that you have ranks to core skills on it. That's sort of your minimum this here to switch to Ball Lightning. Now I will go to, what I was doing until I got is that Crown of Lucian Chaos Unique gloves, the regular chest, and then I just had a normal helmet on. It wasn't even ancestral until I managed to upgrade it to Harlequins, but it definitely got the job done. So that's kind of what you're thinking then. You need to just sort of tune this between the minimum and maximum ideal gear setup, and you will start to just build and build in power. But as long as you have yourself the minimum that I just showed, you're going to have a fantastic time in doing this. So I do want to then very much stress your resist caps and your armor caps. Obviously, having jewelry as armor, like that 30% all resist, your resist cap should be very comfortable, coupled with the amount of intelligence we have, coupled with our Paragon, you should be absolutely fine. Armor-wise, you might struggle a little bit more. Obviously, once I have Harlequins on, that's a load of armor, I'm perfectly capped for Torment 4. I also don't have maximum Royal Skulls in 2 of my jewelry slots, slots. So I'm missing another 160 armor from there, which obviously would make a huge difference. And because I don't have a Chaos Unique Lockrans, I'm using a normal chest that does at least get to 10% total armor, which is really nice. However, if I lost this and instead got my final 2 Royal Skulls in here, and then with just, you know, the Lockrans base armor, I would also start to reach armor cap as well. So just kind of consider with the pieces that you do have available to you, how you're going to get to that armor cap. And as a little tip, if you want to swap to Ball Lightning as soon as possible, do what I did, which is in your 3rd Chaos perk slot, you absolutely need Mana Shield, Power Siphon, and Advanced Techniques, but you can just shove in Mad Guard to get that extra 20% armor and all resist to make you really tanky to swap to this straight away. The half health cut doesn't matter because you have, you know, 49 total health anyway, so this can be a nice little way to do it, on top of just use armor, incense, or indeed a potion if you absolutely have to. In any case then, yeah, that's your kind of raw gear options, and I hope that all made sense. When it comes to affixes then, you want to have intelligence, overpower damage, and then just a 3rd damage increase on your weapon, like so. On your boots, you want to have intelligence, mana per second, and then you need ranks to Ball Lightning everywhere you can get it. On your normal armor, if you are using any in normal slots, you want intelligence, mana per second, and then either armor if you need it, or anything else useful. Obviously, maximum life doesn't matter, so ignore that one, and you will be fine. On your ring that's a normal ring, you want to have intelligence, and then either critical strike chance, critical strike damage, and attack speed. On your amulet, ideally, you want intelligence, ranks to permafrost, inner flames, or glass cannon, 2 of those 3, but don't thread over it too much. This one here with a GA on intelligence, attack speed, and crit chance is still really worthwhile and worth using if I did have that Lockrans Chaos Unique to replace my chest, and then I could put this on. So, your gems and runes then, you want critical strike damage in your weapons, you want Royal Skulls all the way in your jewelry, and then intelligence in your 1 piece of free armor. Rune combinations wise then, you want to have a Naguga, so your summons generate the offering, and then you get critical strike chance. Now, you might not need this critical strike chance. Once you start to get your Ring of Starless Skies, you get loads of critical strike chance, you've got your Lockrans going on, you want to swap this out for Barbarian Warcry. I'm kind of at that point, and I really should, but if you're earlier on your journey with this build, you do want to have the crit chance. Then the other one that you require is get your 5 skills, then become exhausted to get +1 to all skills. This translates to another 3 ranks of Ball Lightning, which is a massive damage increase for this build this season. So that's sort of the gear. I then want to immediately go into your Chaos perks because this is a big deal and the reason it's so strong. We obviously then want to use Mana Shield. This means that all of our health is, well, eliminated, and instead we get a huge pool of mana. Now, this will eventually grow to above 10k and further as you get better and better gear, but I cannot stress enough just how much having a huge, essentially health pool like this, basic damage reduction, makes you so unkillable. Even though we're spending this air quotes health to do all of our Ball Lightning in, it just doesn't matter. Initially, I can just spam it like so, and even without me doing anything to help, in my current gear, I'm generating so much mana that it just doesn't matter. It's free. And that mana generation is also health generation. That is such a big deal, even though I'm costing 262 mana per Ball Lightning. If I was to actually put Blizzard down and start getting that regen, it's, well, unbelievable how hard you are to kill. It works so well. In any case, that Mana Shield is the engine here because it lets us use the damage. We have then Power Siphon. This is just great because it's 100% multiplicative more damage at the cost of reducing our maximum resource. That just doesn't matter because we have loads of maximum resource, so it's just a huge damage amp. But then the big star of the show is the Sorcerer unique Advanced Techniques. So your core skill ranks increase their mana cost by 10% and increase their damage by 20% multiplicatively. So, this translates then on the skill tree to my current 29 ranks of Ball Lightning, 580% multiplicative damage increase thanks to that Chaos perk. 29 lots of that 20% multiplicative increase. That is why this is ridiculous, and you can get more ranks than this. If I look at my gear, I could have triple hit this Ball Lightning on boots, and it could be GA. I can triple hit Okuns Catalyst on Ball Lightning ranks, and it could be GA. Core ranks, triple hit, GA. And you've got your Banished Lords. Core ranks, triple hit, GA. So on and so forth. You can start to reach 35-40 ranks of Ball Lightning, and amplify this advanced techniques even more. So that's your Chaos perks. When we're talking about how this build even functions then, well, the real extra secret sauce to silly damage is Banished Lords that I said was a requirement. So after we spend 275 of our resource, our next core skill is going to be an overpower, and then those crit overpowers get this huge amp. And obviously overpower just in general, even if it's a little bit worse than it was, is still a big damage increase. Well, when our Ball Lightning is starting to cost essentially the amount of mana per cast to trigger Banished Lords, well then every cast is going to be a guaranteed overpower, which is obviously hilarious. That is why this increased mana per rank is actually a good thing, because it lets Ball Lightning reach the levels of costing mana to permanently banish lords. Now, if you get Starless Skies and start stacking that up, that's obviously reducing mana cost again. So right now I have 262 mana per Ball Lightning, which is just under that permanent banished lords. Obviously, we're still getting a lot of overpower, but if you want permanent banished lords triggering with your Starless Skies, well, then you need to have at least 35 to 38 ranks of Ball Lightning, which I'm really not far away from. That extra 3 that I get from my rune, if I just got a slightly better hit on some of this gear, I would be there and have permanent overpower. So imagine the footage I could show you then of True deleting everything. So that's kind of the way this works. Huge ranks of Ball Lightning, permanent overpower, and righteous abuse of advanced techniques to just reach spectacular heights as a build. When it comes to tempering, then you want chance of Ball Lightning to cast twice, and overpower damage or critical strike damage. On the ring, if you have a normal ring, you want unstable currents cooldown reduction, and then either overpower or critical strike damage. On a amulet, if you are using one, you want evade cooldown reduction. This obviously helps massively for our permanent evade teleport movement, and then overpower or critical strike damage. And on your gloves, you'd also want that overpower or critical strike damage. And then ranks to your static discharge. And on any pieces you are using, percent total armor, and ranks to static discharge across your legs and your helm and chest. On your boots, again, ranks to static discharge, but then very importantly, evade cooldown reduction to again help with that evade spam. When we're looking at actual masterworking, anything that increases damage, chance of Ball Lightning to cast twice is best. Ranks to Ball Lightning, ranks to core skills, ranks to Ball Lightning, ranks to core skills. Anything anywhere that can give you ranks to Ball Lightning, that is your priority to triple hit if you have the patience and the resources. After that, the next most important things to hit are cooldown reduction anywhere that there is cooldown reduction, as that will give you the fastest path to permanent evade teleport spam. After that, you just want generic damage increases or indeed evade cooldown reduction too. Just to quickly talk mercenaries, get them out the way, you either want to have Subo if you are resist capped on Torment 4 without the help from a mercenary, so we can have opening fire, or you want Rahia with the all resist if you still need help with that, and then either way, Vayana for that 10% attack speed on Bloodthirst. So now that hopefully everything is in place and you kind of know what's going on and why and how everything interacts, well, how do you play this? Essentially, you just hold down the Ball Lightning button forever, permanently, and then hit your evade to move through the dungeon, the pit, around your Infernal Hordes, whatever you're doing. That's your basis. This just never stops no matter what is going on. After that, you want to use Unstable Currents on cooldown every time it's up, which will be every time it finishes. You want to press either Ice Blades or Lightning Spear on cooldown every time. You want to always make sure you have at least a Blizzard up, just as that mana regen safety net, especially if you have worse gear than I do. And then you want to use your basic skill every 5 seconds to maintain stacks of the damage, especially when you're doing bosses. And that, I completely forgot to talk about it in the Chaos Perk section, is your third Chaos Perk, your 20% damage increase, stacking 3 times from using basic skills. So that's kind of it. The only thing left to mention is Flame Shield, and Flame Shield you basically want to save for 2 things. Firstly, adding the fire to the Elementalist glyph we'll be using, and secondly is it makes you immune for 2 seconds, right? Or at least a base one does. I've got a load of ranks in it here that I wouldn't normally have. And the reason that's great is because after 2 seconds, your mana regen goes up 5,000%, which basically means you get a full heal on top of the immunity every time you press Flame Shield, so again, it makes you really, really hard to kill. And I should mention that if you do have a Harlequin, you can take the 1 rank out of Flame Shield, because you'll just be able to have it by default, and then you want to put it into Static Discharge instead. So that's how that goes. It's very simple, very fun, and you just move forward and get it done. Now then, if you are doing Infernal Hordes and you're annihilating everything, I would recommend one little change. Swap one of your aspects for Splintering Energy to support our Lightning Spear. Make sure Lightning Spear is on your bar, and then in your Chaos unique perks, you want to get rid of your basic skill one, and you instead want to add Mana Infused Conjurations to amp up the damage of them and make Lightning Spear spawn ball lightnings. We just don't need the damage to help with something like Infernal Hordes. We just want big AoE full room auto clearing, and this does that. You then want to put Teleport over the basic skill so we can move twice as fast around the Infernal Hordes, as we don't need to use the basic skill anymore. You can also edit your skill tree to adjust. You don't need that 1 extra point in your basic skill, for example, but that's kind of your standard swap to an Infernal Horde build. Teleport on your bar instead of a basic skill, Splintering Energy aspect to power up your Lightning Spears, and then Mana Infused Conjurations instead of explosive combinations. Which brings us finally to Paragon. Follow me point for point, and here we go. Starting on the starting board, grabbing Elementalist and all of the extra damage if you have the points to do that. We then go up left through Resilience and into the glyph, where we slot and activate Adept for that lovely ball lightning synergy. All well and good. Obviously, now that I have got it legendary, I realize I don't even need those 2 points there. That was from before I did my glyph grinding, so that's really nice. In any case, this is what we want, and then get Elemental Balance, and again, any spare points, grab any spare damage. Up through Studied into our next board, which is going to be Enchantment Master. We want to initially grab said Enchantment Master, and also Blessing, head all the way over to here, Ruinous, again, grabbing extra damage if we have spare points, then over to the glyph slot via Tactical, and here we want to activate Tactician, another reason that we are using Flame Shield to make this, well, activate. And then we want to also grab Elemental Balance too. After that, we come back over to here, grab Suffused Resilience. It's a lovely way to help us rescap without having to worry about it in gear, and the damage reduction is nice too. Then over to the gate into our next board, which is going to be Ceaseless Conduit. We'll always have Crackling Energy just max from the sheer volume of procs we're getting, and this is a nice damage increase for doing so, on top of just being on a nice board for us. Arrange it like this with the glyph bottom left, and initially then we want to go down to the glyph where we slot and activate Destruction, and we want to grab every single little bit of dexterity around the place to power it up as high as it can go. It's a lot of crit damage. Grab your Galvanic Catalyst, grab your Devastate, and on we go. Round through your Conduit, and here is where I would grab that, because I do have a spare point. Again, all your spare points go into the magic damage nodes that you'll skip initially, because you want to rush for your legendary nodes and then your glyphs. Talking of which, down here to activate Ceaseless Conduit. After that, we want to head down to the bottom gate, where we will slot and activate Frigid Fate, and then we want to initially go down to the glyph slot, where we slot and activate Elementalist. Grab Elemental Favor, go through Weakness, and round to Frigid Fate, and again, spare point, grab things like Oppressive. After that, we head north via Suffused Resilience, more damage reduction, always good, up to the gate, and into our last board, which is going to be your Static Surge. Nice damage increase, the mana regen's obviously not huge, but hey, every little helps you become immortal, going straight up to the glyph, where we slot and activate Unleash for very similar reasons as Static Surge. Then we grab Electro and Incapacitate, and head round to the Legendary node and get that in. And there you kind of go. Be careful taking resource cost reduction if you do, as it will make it harder to hit that Banished Lord's threshold, and then everywhere as you path through the tree, make sure that you go in a way to hit as many intelligence nodes as you can to power your mana shield as much as possible. Other than that, that is your Paragon. And thus we get to the end of Season 10 Ball Lightning, which is just flying. Fast, fun, powerful, tanky. There really isn't any weakness to it. It's good at single target, it's good at pack clearing, it's good at every type of content, and it's honestly going to be tragic once Season 11 rolls around and we are forced to look elsewhere. But for now, have a good time, my fellow sorcerers. Let me know what build you'd like to see next, Perfected Crackling Energy, or something else entirely. Like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.